Welcome to the Brain Body Speak podcast. And today's episode, my guest is Kaitlyn Shrum, and she is a myofunctional therapist and speech language pathologist who specializes in airway health and basically helping people learn how their mouth and their tongue position and their entire facial structure and mechanics impacts their health. So this is a really great conversation, not only because of the specifics of learning what myofunctional therapy is and understanding what types of things can be impacted if your tongue position and your breathing are dysfunctional, but we also talk about a lot of things about our own health journeys and why it's so important to be an advocate for yourself. Some of our experiences navigating health issues in the modern medical world where we were dismissed and pushed aside and not taken seriously, which I know is a really big problem for a lot of my listeners and a lot of the people I work with, basically just being ignored in the medical system. So we have some really important conversation around that and what to do if you are struggling. And then we just dive into some of the dynamics that we've learned in our careers, what we believe is the future of healthcare and a multidimensional approach, which is something I'm really passionate about, and lots of other great tidbits. So I'm really happy to have had Kaitlyn on. We have some great conversation and dialogue in store for you. Get comfortable and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Brain Body Speak, the podcast that bridges the worlds of psychology, somatic healing, neuroscience and energetics, as well as holistic health. I'm Holly Joy McCabe, here to help you understand complex topics by breaking them down into straightforward concepts and practical examples so you can understand your brain, your body, your nervous system, and your conscious and subconscious mind. The knowledge you'll find in this show will be your secret weapon as you learn the language of health, happiness, and success. We'll dive deep into unique perspectives on topics like mental and physical health, mindset, trauma healing, and so much more, offering you actionable tools and insights to transform each area of your life. And hey, if you're a business owner or CEO looking for all of these topics specifically catered to entrepreneurship, make sure to check out my other show, The Regulated CEO. Let's dive in. All right. Well, welcome, Kaitlyn. I am really excited to have you on the show today and be my very first guest to talk about myofunctional therapy, speech, and breath. I'm so excited to have you here and can't wait to dive into all of this.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get to talk to you. It's been a while, and I'm excited to share information about Myo because it's obviously a passion of mine.
Yeah, I understand the sharing passions. So Kaitlyn and I met at the James Nestor retreat in Costa Rica back in March. It was a pretty awesome event at a beautiful location, lots of breathing and education and everything else. But there were so many incredible people there that you either had a 7-hour conversation or you said hi to somebody in passing. I feel like there was no in between. So there were so many people that I just didn't get to have these really long, in-depth conversations with. And I'm just excited to dive into more of the world of Myo to really kind of take an introductory stance for my audience and for the listeners for what Myo even is, like why it's important. Because I know for me, basically 6-7 years ago, even being in the health and fitness industry for 15 years prior, when I started learning about functional breathing and airway health and all of this, my mind was blown because I was like, I've been an athlete and coaching athletes and working in this space for so long, and nobody ever told me any of this.
Yeah.
And I also went through my own journey with really terrible vocal cord dysfunction where I could literally hardly breathe or talk for several years. And I've not really publicly shared much about that, but it's something that I really want to share in my own chronic health journey, that breathing was such a huge part of my own healing, like really learning how to optimize my breath, realizing that I had basically been breathing wrong my whole life, a lot of trauma, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of overtraining. And so it was really just mind-blowing to me. And I know that for a lot of people, this is just not something that people are going around learning about. It's not mainstream. It's just so niche specific. And then once you go into this world of airway health, you're just like, why does everybody not know this stuff? So that's a little bit about like my background and when I first started learning about airway health and myofunctional therapy and all of this, I was blown away. And the rest is history, as they say. It just became this other passion of mine, certifications and studying and reading everything. But I have just not shared much about this on my platforms just because I share so many different types of content with trauma and everything. But breathing is so specific to trauma resolution. And I just really look forward to bringing more content around this. So I'm super excited to hear all of your brilliance and knowledge. And I would love to just start with maybe just a quick background on how did you even get into this field? What brought you to this space? Was it a personal journey? Were you just interested? Did you stumble into it? Like, how did you get into this world?
Great question. It is, everyone I feel comes to myo in a different way. And myo is short for myofunctional therapy or orofacial myology. There's a few different names. Most of us just say myo for short. I'm a speech language pathologist. And for years, I had worked primarily with pediatrics in specializing in feeding and swallowing with them. And it just so happened that I spoke to another therapist who was in the myo space. And I said, oh, I've never heard of that, because you really, even now, they don't really talk about it in school. They're supposed to now that it's becoming more prominent and they're realizing the benefits. But when I was in grad school, they didn't touch on it. So I became really interested in it because it just, based on what she said and what I had looked into after that, it seemed like it was a missing link with feeding disorders, but also speech sound disorders and just general wellness. So I took my intro course in 2016, and then it's pretty common in this field. We call it going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I pretty much went down that rabbit hole and decided that this was really what I wanted to pursue, and opened up, years later, ended up opening up my own practice where we focus on myofunctional therapy, speech, so traditional, just working on speech sounds, and then feeding and swallowing. But it definitely, it was a roundabout journey to get here. And then within the space, found out that I, in fact, had to go on my own myofunctional journey, which I think a lot of us do. I think there's a lot of people who don't realize that they're breathing dysfunctionally, that your tongue is supposed to be up in the roof of your mouth, suctioned up, that there are all these little pieces that add up to us having a regulated nervous system. And I'm obviously so much about the nervous system. And I feel like within the last couple of years, I've started to go down that road as well.
Yeah.
Because I really do think that the mouth, has so much to do with stability and how we are interacting with our surroundings. So it's been great because there's always something new to learn, but it can be overwhelming. There's so much information you want to take in and learn about.
Yeah, I can relate. I use the term rabbit hole all the time because I think when you're a really versatile, open-minded practitioner, for me, I never stop just adding more to my knowledge base because I know that there's this infinite world of knowledge. And sometimes you stumble upon something, and like you said, the missing link, I look at that so many times. I'm like, how have I been literally 2 decades in the health space and I still keep finding these links? And then it plugs into all these other things, and it's like domino effect. You put that link in, and suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, why did these people not know this? Why did these people not do this? And it's just mind blowing, but it does fuel the passion. And I think a lot of us, like you said, go through the personal journey. Like when I started to learn how messed up my breathing was, I was like, oh, this is probably a pretty important thing. Like breathing is really important. So I love that. I love that it was that way for you, the missing link, the rabbit hole, and everything else. And I guess that's the perfect segue to let's dive into brand new, never heard of myofunctional therapy. People have no idea what it is. And I'm also curious just a little bit of why is myo and speech interconnected? Just paint the picture of what myo is, what speech is, why they're connected, and why they're so important. And just beginner 101, why somebody should be interested in this, or what could be indicated that they actually need this type of work.
Okay. So myofunctional therapy, it's done by a licensed You're not licensed as a myofunctional therapist. It's usually a dental hygienist, speech language pathologist, or occupational therapist. I know a few physical therapists who do it as well, but you do need additional training from whatever your licensure is in. And what it is, that the way I like to describe it is you're doing physical therapy for the neck, the face, the tongue, the lips, in order to create more harmony in the body and balance in the body. And by doing that, you're creating a new neuromuscular habit or muscle memory to make sure that your tongue is resting in the correct position. So that's actually like fully suctioned up like this. If somebody were to walk by and open your mouth, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, your tongue should be suctioned up into your palate. Your lips should be closed at rest. Your teeth are just gently apart in the back, and then you should be breathing through your nose. So what that does is, say you have that from birth. If you're one of the lucky few who it just works out from birth, that is going to drive your facial growth. It affects your nervous system, how you're breathing, digestion, quite a few different systems. And I know we tend to, when we talk about linking all the different parts of the body, I think we have a tendency to just put ourselves in these silos and parts of the body, like, oh, I'm going to this specialist for ear, nose, and throat. I'm going to this for digestive. But what Myo does is it brings those all together and shows how they're connected. I think the basics of what we do, the way I run therapy is you would come in for an evaluation, and that's usually an hour or so. I look at the structures. So specifically, obviously face, mouth, but I'm also looking at how's your posture? How's your body posture? How are you breathing? Are you sitting mouth open? Are you breathing through your nose? Are you breathing through your chest or your diaphragm? What's happening there? I watch you eat a snack while you're during your evaluation, because how it goes back to speech is part of it is that we look at the swallowing pattern. There is a correct way to swallow so that you're not moving your tongue forward. You're not pushing on your teeth. You're not using compensatory movements of your neck or your head to get that food down. Because with all those compensations over time, it can create a lot of strain on the body. It can create muscle imbalance, facial imbalance. There's a lot of repercussions that we don't assume just come from where your tongue is at rest and during the swallow. And another way it relates back to speech is, though we get a lot of both children and adults who speech sounds. So specifically people who have that lispy or sloshy speech, difficulty saying their R sound because they can't shape their tongue the way it needs. Those are very specific sounds, and they are made in very specific places in your mouth. You have to be able to shape your tongue and shape the oral cavity to make those sounds correctly. So that's another way it ties back into speech.
Yeah.
So really with the feeding and swallowing. And so that's how I linked it. Like I said, I had started with feeding and swallowing, but there was just so much that we weren't taught in school or is not taught in continuing education classes that I felt like Myo brought it all together.
Yeah, it's so crazy that most people, again, compartmentalize, like even in the alternative health space, like in my work, people are like seeing a therapist and then a hypnotherapist and then a trainer and a nutritionist and a physical therapist, like just all these different people, and they're all in their own universe and nobody's talking and connecting dots, and everyone's, no, this is the one thing. So that's always like something that gets me riled up, because I'm like, if we would all just talk and share more, we could like create so much more impact and learning. And I think that was what was really cool about the James Nestor event that we were at, is I had never been at an event where people were just like, oh my gosh, what do you know? What do you know? Let's tie it together. Sometimes practitioners are just like, this is my lane, this is my thing, and that's it. And there's nothing else I need to know. And I'm like, but there's so much more we need to know. I didn't for a very long time. Again, sports therapy, working with fascia, the body, muscles, like even that broad knowledge of how everything is connected. There's still like this almost like just skipping over the mouth and tongue that I was like, why did we not talk about this anymore? So like really understanding that literally your tongue goes all the way down to your toe and the fascia patterns and tying that all together, it really made me realize we just have this massive gap in the care of the way, even as body workers and as therapists and all the things that I do, we're just skipping this really important part. And I think it's so mind-blowing when people start to realize how important their mouth is and everything that happens in the tongue and the nerves that it's connected to, and how that literally controls everything. Like when I first had my vocal cord dysfunction, it's actually crazy to look back at the videos I was trying to do because I was still trying to put out content. I was still trying to speak, and like my whole mouth was just going sideways all the time, like all the time. And one big telltale sign for me that my nervous system is compromised is my speech. Like words fumble out if I'm just tired, if I didn't sleep as much. Like I started to really pay attention to that in a way that I never had. And I was like, wow, like it really is just such a reflection. You can alter your nervous system and your posture and so many things. And it's also like a messenger of deeper dysfunction. Like that kind of blew my mind too. And again, just to be like a newbie and be like, what? Like the position of my tongue can impact my nervous system or my health? Like it's crazy.
100%. And you touched on a couple things that we can tie in about. I loved my favorite part of the retreat was that it was a group of people that probably would never have met just free floating in the world. And we were all there for a week in a beautiful space. And I felt like everyone was very open about sharing their knowledge, and everyone was also very open to receiving it, which was really nice. I tend to, when I get clients, I always say, I'm just one piece of the puzzle. This is a team approach, because just because I find something doesn't mean I'm the last stop. We're going to have to possibly bring in dentistry, ENTs, body work is huge. I refer out, like you said, fascia. The tongue is connected from your mouth to your toes through fascia. And we need to address all these things to create optimal results.
Yeah.
You go from just functioning to really functional. And you were talking about like oral health, the mouth. I think it's a morbid saying, but I say death seeps in through the mouth. If you want to look at somebody's overall health, that is a great place to look. And that's a great place to start, because it gives us such a good indication about what's happening in the rest of the body.
Yeah.
We're all tied together, but your gum health, the health of your teeth, what your tongue looks like. Is it nice and pink? Does it have a white coating? There's so many things that say, okay, something's going on here, and we can improve upon it to make you a healthier individual. So it's pretty crazy. I think somebody had once said the tongue and the jaws are like the feet of the face, in the sense that you really need those for stability.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good analogy, and saying how important it is, because yes, you can function without your feet 100%. Lots of people have disabilities where they aren't able to, but think about what you can do when everything is in place and everything's functioning optimally. Touching on you said, nervous system. I don't think a lot of people know that their tongue position impacts whether they're in fight or flight or rest and digest. And for those that don't know, and I know you can go into this really in depth, but there's a nerve called the vagus nerve that gets activated when your tongue is up in your palate and suctioned lightly up to that palate. And when it's not in that position, we go into more of a fight or flight, more upper chest breathing, that rapid, shallow breathing, mouth breathing too. When your tongue is in the correct resting position, suctioned up, you legitimately, if it's in that position, you cannot mouth breathe. Yeah. So you automatically, your breathing gets better. You're stimulating that vagus nerve, and you're putting your body into a state where it can relax and rest and digest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy that also people will go through their life, again, seeing a therapist, going to do meditation, all of these different things for decades. And that's 30 minutes, 60 minutes, a couple times a week, maybe. But then they walk out of that and their dysfunctional breathing is just like a wrecking ball, pushing them backwards, like 100% pushing them backwards. And of course, like the next thing I'd love to dive into that segues really good into that, even if you're somewhat breathing normal or functioning during the day, And then you lay down and you've got an obstructed airway and can't breathe all night. That's 6, 7, 8 hours that you're not able to actually get in the oxygen that you need. And your system is just basically in emergency mode. So I would love to talk about how this ties in with sleep and how the work that you do can translate over into that.
Absolutely. I find sleep to be so fascinating. And I think I've learned a great deal over the last few years, but there's still so much that I want to dive into with sleep. But myofunctional therapy, in the past, really, people would go who have suspected sleep apnea or get diagnosed with sleep apnea, would go to the doctor. Here's your CPAP, go home.
Yep.
CPAP is still the gold standard, 100% for therapy, but it's not the end all be all. And with myofunctional therapy, we are working on creating strength in those oral structures and pharyngeal structures to make sure that they are staying where they're supposed to be. So your tongue should be suctioned up at night, just as it is during the day. And you have to create that pattern and that muscular habit to keep it up there so that's not falling into the airway at night. And same thing, like we take a look during the evaluation. I'm looking at the soft palate. I'm looking at the uvula. Obviously, we also send out for imaging, which helps. But if those things are weak and you're breathing through your mouth at night or day, that's all going to tie into how you're sleeping and breathing. Yeah. So it's interesting because the less you nasal breathe, the harder it becomes. Your nose is going to become less patent or open, the less you nasal breathe. And conversely, when you're mouth breathing, even if it's not all the time, all that air is going in at a very fast, rapid rate, and it's cold, and it's actually going to, over time, make those structures less stable and cause them to be, for lack of a better term, a little bit more floppy.
Yeah. Yeah. When you went on your journey, did you have sleep apnea? Have you done like an official sleep test, or did you just have like chronic insomnia? Because for me, like I didn't sleep for 32 years of my life, like at all. Like it's a big part of my chronic illness and my body just collapsing. I was never, ever sleeping. Again, wanted to do a sleep test at different times, couldn't afford the study or whatever. But like sleep was just such a huge thing for me when I connected those dots. I'm like, oh, no wonder. Like I didn't snore. I didn't have some of the classic sleep apnea signs. I just could never sleep. I was always like hyper aroused. And again, that was a lot of trauma and stress and overtraining and stuff. But my airways certainly weren't helping. So I'm curious kind of what your background with the sleep was personally on your journey.
Yeah. So I don't think, had I not been in this field, 100% my sleep issues. So for listeners, I have what's called upper airway resistance syndrome, which is also known as young fit female syndrome. That's its nickname in our world. It's very underdiagnosed, and it's very specific to women who are average weight. You wouldn't say, oh, that person has sleep apnea. Younger women, like these are all people who get chronically missed by the healthcare system for sleep apnea. I will walk into a new practitioner to see them, and they're like, you have sleep disorder. Like they look at me like I'm nuts.
Right.
And I say, no, 100% I do. And had I not been in this field, I don't think I would have known. I slept what I thought was really well for years. Again, we're terrible judges of our own sleep. Like we'll say, oh, we had great sleep. I slept through the night. Quantity does not equal quality.
Yeah.
But I found in the last, probably 5-6 years, maybe a little bit more, just waking up all constantly, clenching a lot at night. I can fall asleep almost anywhere easily. I've always been, I guess, tired, and without even realizing it, because even in high school, I would fall asleep, would be at somebody's house. I'd fall asleep by 9. My friends still make fun of me because I fall asleep on the couch if we have people over. So not getting quality sleep because I was never really going into deep sleep, which I know now, but it had taken advocating for myself and saying, I think there's something going on here. I'm not sleeping through the night. I'm getting up average of 6 to 9 times a night. That's not normal. And it's not healthy because you're not getting into that sleep cycle where your brain can clean itself out and help you learn new information. And some doctors I've had to walk away from because they just don't understand. But I've also found that, interestingly enough, dentists are really very much at the forefront of airway health and sleep disordered breathing. They're a lot of times they're like the entryway into that world. I was lucky enough to find a dentist who sent me for the sleep study and has sent me for multiple sleep studies. I've got an appliance that we worked on expanding my palate to enlarge my airway, which has worked to some degree, but at the same time, a lot of damage was done with orthodontics during my teenage years. And touching on that, in the 90s and early 2000s, think about how many of us had braces. I would say the majority of my friends at some point had braces. They were really big fans of making really pretty smiles. We all have aligned teeth, but a lot of times they would extract teeth to make everything fit instead of expanding. What that does is push back the airway.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot more 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, early 40s who are having these airway issues because of what orthodontics they had.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me to something that I talk about a lot in my world. For one, repeat what you said the nickname term for that condition was?
Young fit female syndrome. Funny story, I had one doctor when I was living up in Atlanta, and he was like, you have skinny girl syndrome. He's like, you just need more salt. And he's like, you eat too many salads. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Not a thing. So obviously didn't go back to him. But again, it's just, you find these women and even clients coming in who are female don't know they have it. And I'm like, I think you have sleep disordered breathing. And they're like, no, I'm just a woman. I get up a lot. I'm anxious. I'm like, these things can be worked. We can work on these things.
Yeah. Yeah. That term is mind blowing because obviously in my chronic health journey, I went to a million different doctors and a million different specialists. And if there was a term to describe how they treated me, it was that. Like, I've never heard that. It's not something that we use in any of my fields, but literally they would look at me. At the time, I'd been an athlete, a gym owner, like I traveled, like all of this. And I would walk in and be like, my heart rate is 180 beats when I'm just sitting here. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I feel like I can't breathe. My lungs don't expand. Like when things went from bad to worse, I had a list of 100 different symptoms that I could, like literally, I felt like I was on my deathbed and 100 years old. And I got looked at and asked if I had a hobby, if my boyfriend was stressing me out,
Yes.
if I just needed to work on my anxiety and the rage that would come through my body. Like I wanted to just knock these practitioners out. I was like, are you not listening to me? And I'll never forget, one of the only times somebody really took me serious was one of the cardiologists that I saw. And he looked at all the blood work and all of this was fine and normal, as often it is, because normal ranges are total BS.
Yeah.
But it was when he looked at my resting heart rate and he had me stand up, and my resting heart rate was like 120, 130. I stood up and walked around the room, and my heart rate as an athlete, 31 years old, went up to 187. And he was like, that's like full blown, like sprinting up a hill level. Yeah. And then he put it on him and he walked around the room, and his was like 87, which is about normal if you're just walking around and moving. And I'm a 69-year-old man, like this. And that he finally took me serious. And I was like, yes, but he still didn't diagnose me with the orthostatic intolerance and the POTS and like the different things now that like I can see from 100 miles away. I'm like, oh yeah, like you've got some stuff going on with your vestibular system and your brainstem. But that approach is so common when you're a young, mildly presentable looking female who's not maybe in the morbidly obese category, or you take care of yourself and you wear some makeup. You must just be bored. You must just have TikTok overload syndrome or something. Like there's all these different labels. And so many women that I work with have had a lifetime of trauma, which generally goes hand in hand with dysfunctional breathing. They're basically chronically hyperventilated. They are working like a man and trying to raise kids and still look good and exercise. The fitness industry alone just completely destroys women's health and hormones. And we're working a million hours, we're exercising and eating wrong, we're breathing wrong. We go in and our bodies are completely shut down. We're overloaded with toxins. Just everything is like a full-on assault.
but they're like, oh no, I'm pretty sure that you just need some antidepressant. Here's some Lexapro and be on your way. Like, it's maddening. It's maddening. So that when you said that term, I was like, let's dive into that a little bit, because I just think that is so common in Western medicine. It's so common across so many different industries. When people get to me, they've been to 100 different practitioners. And I have a really broad background in the health space that I can be like, we need to look at gut. We need to look at this and this. And now I can generally figure out, I need to refer you, and we need to look at airway health and stuff too. So I'm like, if there's practitioners like you and I that can expand our knowledge and be willing to refer out and look at things, and we've been through our own journey, like, how do we get through to the rest of the medical world that's like literally just dismissing women? I'm sure you've probably seen some of the just generalized historical context around female hysteria. Like, they literally used to say anything was just female hysteria. If a woman had any kind of issue at all, she's hysterical. Like, basically she's psycho. She's lost her mind, because she experiences something, she feels something. She's not like 100%. So that just really highlights how much is so like pathologically broken in our healthcare system. And clearly it's the same in your world and airway health. Like, people just, so many practitioners are in, like you said, that silo. They don't know what they don't know, so they just dismiss it. And that is maddening. That literally brings me to rage, because sure, we should have specialists. Sure, we should have people that are experts in this one tiny thing, but also a generalized awareness of, hey, I know enough to know what I don't know, but I know where else you should go. That's always my thing, is I'm like, I'm not a myofunctional therapist or a speech pathologist, but I want to know enough to be able to recognize that this is what you need and send you to that person, and vice versa. So that term was just like, wow, if that doesn't just sum up so much of the medical world and how women get dismissed all the time when our bodies are like falling apart. It's really sad.
It's terrible. And the doctor who said, oh, you have skinny girl disease, it was a cardiologist. I was passing out. I was standing up and I would pass out, or I'd get dizzy. I also have a history of really significant digestive issues and anxiety. And at no point did we examine all these things and tie them together. And even more infuriating than him saying that and using that term and just telling me to go eat more salt, he literally looked away from me and started talking to my husband and said, do you have any concerns for your wife? Like, he started talking to him, and my husband is wonderfully supportive. And he like looked at the guy and he's like, you can talk to her. She knows what's happening. She's also in the healthcare space. So you should probably talk to her, because it's about her. And very understanding. She knows what she's talking about. And obviously didn't go back to that doctor, but it's so frustrating. And I really do, like, I had always worked with pediatrics. And then when I transitioned into myofunctional therapy, I started working with adults as well. And I really do have a passion for working with women of all ages, but especially like people in their 20s and 30s and 40s who they blame motherhood on, like, oh, I'm exhausted because of motherhood, which yes, it is exhausting 100%, but you're being overlooked for all these other symptoms that all can tie back into each other. Like, why some of that anxiety, yes, it's normal as a mom to have anxiety, but are your stomach issues tied to the anxiety? Is some of the anxiety from dysfunctional breathing? Is it because you're never in rest and digest? So
yep. And that's a whole other thing for sure with it's just normal. Common doesn't mean normal, and common doesn't mean unchangeable either. Because again, there's this like mommy wine culture of you should just feel so crappy all the time that you have to anesthetize your feelings with wine. And it's not only encouraged, but it's literally plastered all over every TV show and marketing campaign. I mean, it is like from reality shows to sitcoms, like it's insane. It like literally drives me insane. I even shared last week a clip from the Barbie movie. I haven't seen the movie yet. I want to. But there was one where she's walking, I'm starting to feel just like a generalized fear with no specific object. Like, what's that about? And this lady pops up behind her, and it's so ironic because she has a cup of coffee in her hand. And she's like, anxiety, I have it too. And it's just everything from the subtle to the cute to like pop culture, the dynamic is just, oh, you just have this thing. The whatever you believe created you came along and was like, we're just going to give her anxiety, and she's born with it and there's nothing to change. And it's the same with ADHD and all of those different concepts of, sure, you can have neurodiversity to a degree, and sure, we can have different creative brains and our brains work differently. But to live your life in a chronic state of panic and overwhelm and you can't focus and everything else like is not normal. And it's not just this like card you were dealt that, oh, that's it. And like you said, it's very common for moms to get dismissed like that. And just for women to think this is how we should feel. This is how we should feel. I should just be burnt out. I should just be at my wit's end. I should just hate having kids because I'm exhausted and just all these things. And I should have to drink wine every night to be able to cope with that, which of course just perpetuates an entire physiological cascade.
Hey there, it's Holly Joy. Really quick, I want to take a moment of your time to tell you about something really important. You know, this show is all about diving into the science behind health, happiness, and success. And I want to tell you about something that really impacts all of us: stress. We're living in a world where stress levels are through the roof, and it's no wonder that so many of us are feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and just plain burnt out. But did you know there's a powerful, natural way to help your body handle stress better? The answer lies in a mineral you've probably heard of, but might be overlooking: magnesium. Magnesium is your body's secret weapon in the fight against stress. And it's essential for over 300 biochemical reactions in your body, including regulating your nervous system, supporting healthy sleep, and managing your stress levels. Unfortunately, most of us aren't getting nearly enough of it. And ironically, stress is the number one thing that depletes magnesium at rapid rates. So we're not getting enough, and then we're constantly stressed, losing the little we do get. And this leads to a whole host of issues. Increased anxiety, trouble sleeping, and that constant feeling of being on edge are all a result of not having adequate magnesium levels. So if you're not getting enough, your body can't function optimally. And that's where 300 Zens from Zen in a Bottle really comes into play. This isn't just any magnesium supplement. It's designed to be highly absorbable without any of the junk or fillers, so that your body can actually use it to support your nervous system, calm your mind, and help you get that restful sleep you so desperately need. So if you're tired of feeling stressed out and wired, it's time to give your body the support it deserves. Start with magnesium, the number one player in the game of stress management. Head over to zeninabottle.biz and grab your bottle of 300 Zens today. Use the code BrainBodySpeak at checkout for an exclusive discount only for our listeners. Because when it comes to your health, every little bit counts, and starting with magnesium might just be the game changer you've been looking for. Remember, your brain and body deserve the best, so let's make sure they're getting it. zeninabottle.biz, and don't forget the code BrainBodySpeak to save. Stay balanced, stay zen, and we're back to the show.
But I love hearing that your husband was an advocate for you like that and redirected. I know this is off the topic of myofunctional, but I do think it's so important to just address this, because there's probably so many women listening that have been in that same position where doctors are dismissing them. And it's just, the conversation's naturally evolving there. So I want to elaborate on it a little bit. If your practitioner is not taking you serious, if they're not willing to investigate and look at things, or they can't even be mildly suspicious of, you know what, maybe let's check this, or let me refer you to here, because every referral that I got, I had to beg for. Nobody said, I'm not quite sure, but I believe you that you're experiencing these things and it's definitely not normal. So let me maybe see if this practitioner knows. Like, that just didn't happen. And like you were saying, advocating for yourself, like we have to become so proficient in advocating for ourselves and pushing practitioners, asking for testing. Like I had to order a lot of my own testing and learn how to interpret it. I'm like, I'm glad you went to medical school, but I'm having to do this for myself. Yeah. But like even my husband at one point, this is just one of, I don't know why this moment is so defining for me, but this is like about a year in where we had went to so many doctors, gotten no answers. And we had a new appointment with a practitioner.
I'm like a girly girl. Like I love to get glam. I love to do my makeup. And even as sick as I was, like if I was going to go out in public, like I would take the time to put myself together a little bit. That's just me. And he literally said, I know you're not going to want to do this, but I think you need to not wear makeup to this appointment and not look cute, basically, because maybe if you look more sick, they'll take you more seriously. That is insane. My husband's a doctor, by the way. Like he's in the medical field.
Yeah.
He literally had to tell me to not wear makeup so that I would look more sick. And that's invisible illness, the entire world of invisible illness, especially in our 20s and 30s. We take care of our skin and we got good makeup and we know how to like make ourselves maybe not look like we feel terrible, even if we do. Like that moment was just like, this is the medical system that we're in. I have to make myself appear more sick for you to actually listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. This is insane. And it got to the point where he would try to go with me for just support, to be there. I would go into the hospital that he worked at. So he would come down, he'd be in his lab coat and his badge. And like, maybe they'll take you more seriously if they realize you're married to somebody in the medical space. And the same thing happened with me, where people would like literally bypass me and just look directly at him. And he would just be like, what do you think? Like, like I'm literally in the room. You're talking about my health and my symptoms. So again, it just highlights so much of that deeper issue and deficiency in the medical space of women don't know how they feel. Like we can't be the agency. Like we don't have agency over our own bodies and health. It's definitely insane. And I think, again, looking at like when people come to me, they're typically in such a chronic state of dysfunction. And the thing that breaks my heart the most outside of all of it, because I work with some of the most abused, traumatized, kind of broken human beings. Their minds and their bodies are very beat up. And it's very heavy work sometimes. But one of the hardest parts to see is the fact that society, like you said, looks over and then blames the women. Like, oh, it's your fault, or you're just not ambitious enough, or you just don't have willpower, or just basically this chronic perpetuation of, you can't be that sick and you need to keep doing this. There's no compassion, there's no care. And so like the first thing I try to do with women when they get on a call with me is be like, what you feel like is so normal given what you're up against. Like I explain to women that basically we're in 50, 60, 70 years of the female physical body, the physiology and the hormonal makeup of a woman being in the workforce like full time. And full time isn't 40 hours anymore. It's 50, 60, 70 hours. It's side hustles. It's you're working 2 jobs, then you're taking care of the home, raising kids. Again, typically going to a boot camp and trying to look good and get your mom your pre-baby body back and do all the things. And they think that they should feel good. They think that they should be out there crushing it and everything should be good. And from my lens, I'm like, no, you shouldn't. You should feel like crap. Your body should be shutting down on you. And it's just crazy that the expectation on women is just so over the top these days. And when you start looking at airway health and understanding that every breath a woman takes when she has trauma and stress and overload is dysfunctional and actually fueling disease, then she's hopeless. Like it really is a helpless situation if she doesn't start breathing better and start resting better and start doing these different things to give her body what she needs. But the fact that women just think, I should be able to do this all. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't. Like we're literally not designed to try to keep up with everything we're doing, even if we are breathing perfectly. And most of us aren't. We're definitely not.
Yes, I 100% agree. And I think understanding the pressure that not just women, but even all my clients, especially like even my pediatric clients, knowing now what I know about breathing and the nervous system, it's changed the way I treat, because I can't expect them to improve and become more functional if at baseline everything's chaos. I get with the adults, obviously dysregulation looks a lot different than it does in children, but just recognizing now and saying, oh, okay, like maybe we take a minute, maybe we do some breath work, maybe we start slowly, maybe if you need to just unload and have somebody to talk to for the first few minutes of the session, go for it. Tell me what's going on in your life. I want to know what those stressors are so that I can try to help you get to a place where we're going towards baseline so that from there we can improve on everything else.
Right.
So it's just changed how I think about everything, and especially changed how I treat myself. A great example, and I was talking to my husband yesterday, so background part of my airway journey is I've had 2 nasal surgeries because I had it, even as a kid, I was one of those kids who had sports-induced asthma and had issues with that. But then in college, my allergies got terrible, and they progressively got worse until about 2020. I got COVID, recovered, but then I was having such a hard time breathing nasally, couldn't do it. I was out of breath all the time. I would walk from my office to my car, and some of it was from COVID, but a lot of it was I was taking these shallow breaths because I just didn't have any quality nasal breathing.
Yeah.
I had surgery, it got better for a time, and then there were some complications where I had to go back in. And yesterday was the first time, I think, since my second surgery that I got really stuffed up and congested. And I immediately noticed my nervous system, I was in fight or flight immediately because I was breathing through my mouth. I was taking shorter breaths, and I felt scattered all day until I was able to clear up some of the congestion by the end of the day. And then I was like, oh, I can breathe.
Yeah.
I'm back to not feeling like I'm being pulled in a million directions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild how you tune into such subtleties and stuff. I want to make this reel for Instagram, but it's going to be a production. But I think about me in my 20s, and this is most of us. We're into the drinking and fast food, and we feel like crap, and we're like, oh, why do I feel bad? And there's that version. And then there's the 37-year-old me with the professional background, but then the personal journey. And I can wake up and be like, oh, I think my lymphatic fluid's a little backed up. My mast cells are a little activated. I think my histamine's a little high. Ooh, there must have been bleach in that bathroom I just went in because my nasal passages are a little irritated. Just the subtle nuances that I'm in tune with every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And there's definitely a point that I've been in, when I was really chronically sick, where that became just more hypervigilance. It just became more of this, oh my gosh, I can't move, because I was so fragile and so sensitive that literally the wind could blow and I could be debilitated. It was very hard to be that chronically sick. But to actually tune in and feel what your body's feeling and understand the subtle shifts, it goes back to that. It's not normal. When you can recognize something shifted, something changed here, and what is it and how can I work on it? That is where you take the power back. Working with practitioners is a part of it, but learning how to navigate that yourself is such a big piece of the puzzle. And I tell people when they start working with me too, I'm I don't want you to be dependent on seeing me. Sometimes people want to come and see a therapist and they want the therapist to just fix them, especially with hands-on work. They're I want to lay here and I want you to fix everything, and all of it will be good. And I'm I'm going to actually teach you to tune in and to calibrate and to listen and to understand the language of your body. That's why this podcast and my brand is called Brain Body Speak, so that you can actually navigate. Okay, I'm feeling really anxious. What changed here? Was I mouth breathing all day? Was I stuffy because I ate food that I was maybe allergic to? Did I experience a lot of stress at work? And, all these different connecting the dots. It's so important that we become proficient in those subtleties. It doesn't have to be obsessive. It was for me. Again, sometimes when you're really sick, you do have to pay a lot of attention. But once you learn once you learn your baseline and you start to pay attention and track, this is what happens when I'm not breathing. I can 100% tell, and I'm sure you can too, if I eat something that's really high histamine and I get stuffy, guess what? I start mouth breathing, and guess what happens? Then I struggle to breathe more, and then I feel like crap. And then it's just this downward spiral really quickly. It's so mind blowing when you feel the difference. And I always tell people too, I'm you think that how you feel is how you will always feel. But when you just get even a taste of the fact that you're able to control your nervous system state, in my world, it's with applied neurology and breath and somatics, that becomes your new baseline. And then once you realize that's possible, then you can just try your best to keep it mostly in between the lines, right? It's okay, I got to focus on my breathing. I remember that being just such an overwhelming thing the first year, where to to teach yourself to be conscious of something that's completely unconscious is like not normal. No, let me just be aware of the 23,000 breaths I take every day. No biggie. Like that's not normal, but I did have to set up reminders and really calibrate. And now if I have for whatever reason, if I start mouth breathing, if I'm stuffed up or I'm just stressed or whatever, I instantly feel it and I can correct it. I went 30 plus years of my life never understanding that was because of the state of my breathing or my mouth being open. So I say all of that to encourage people that you really can change so much of your state. And once you feel that, and once you become acclimated to that, and you start to learn the things that put you off kilter with that, your life will change so dramatically. Like breathing and optimizing your nervous system, you will feel like a different human being. I'm sure, again, that you've felt that, just the changes and stuff in your breathing too.
Absolutely. Like I said, like yesterday, I could tell immediately. I was like, oh, I am congested. I am not breathing in a functional way. And it was throwing me off. And it changes how you interact with everything, not just yourself, but like I can tell my patients, I'm very patient with, I have a lot of kids. I have a lot of, as clients, not my own. But I can tell when I'm regulated, I am super patient. I feel like a great therapist. When I'm not breathing correctly, when I am stuffed up, I am like, I can tell I'm a lot shorter with them. And I hate it because it's not, to a degree, I can notice it and say, okay, this is what's happening. But until I got into this space, I didn't know, hey, we can fix this. We can go back to baseline. We can regulate. And then you're going to be the therapist that you want to be. And you're going to have the patients that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for moms a lot, again, going back into that mom culture, that expectation. So I work with so many moms and I tell them from the get-go, I'm like, for one, it's normal that you're this overwhelmed and scattered and you have no patience and you're flying off the handle or whatever they're presenting with. They're just, I feel out of control. I just feel like I'm about to lose it. That's common, but not normal. And it's a reflection of your nervous system state. And we can change that. And I always refer to women as like the energetic center of the home, because she generally is. It's like she's the center of the universe and the spouse and the kids and the pets revolve around her. So when she calibrates and she regulates her energy, that trickles and affects everything. Because a lot of times moms are like, but it's my kid or it's my spouse or it's my boss or it's my dog. And it's generally not. Those things may have some disruption or they may have some issues. But when you're regulated, your capacity to handle and navigate those things is so dramatically increased. And that's what I try to always really emphasize to people. Your regulation is about widening your window, increasing your capacity to deal with life. Most people, their capacity is this tiny little sliver. And so it's like everything is the straw that breaks the camel's back. And the camel's back gets broken like 100 times a day. And you just feel out of control. You feel like completely out of control, overwhelmed, and just there's no way. Well, learning how to just breathe optimally throughout the day is one of the biggest things. Again, 20 to 24,000 breaths every day that you're taking. Imagine those working for you rather than against you. That's a game changer. The other little somatic tools and regulation tools, game changers. So I hope if anything, people are hearing this and just recognizing, again, the medical world may tell you that you shouldn't feel that way. You may feel like you should have it all together. The medical world could tell you you don't have any problems, but if you're not looking at your airway health and how you're breathing, that's like baseline level 1, like 100% baseline level 1. And on that note, I would love to ask you a couple things. Like, when do people generally come to you? Have they done research? Is someone referring to you? If someone's walking in your door, how do they typically get to you? And how could somebody know if they need to see you? What's the easiest way without them getting a direct referral of, hey, maybe I need to come and see a myofunctional therapist and get evaluated?
So people end up through my door in interesting ways. I would say number one referral source is through dentists who are airway centric dentists and are the dentists who are in like that sleep apnea space where they're doing the screenings and possibly home sleep studies. ENTs as well. And then also just informed just people. They will find, I've had a number who find me on Instagram who, like, through maybe a podcast, maybe through a friend, they hear about myofunctional therapy and then they say, oh, my tongue's not in the right space, or I'm mouth breathing. Maybe they're not sleeping well. I get a lot of clients who have TMJ issues. And those clients, it's a lot of times there's muscular imbalances and issues with that. And they come to me for that. So I'm always fascinated by how people end up through my door. But I think slowly there's more of a push and understanding of myofunctional therapy and getting to that baseline place where they can start to improve their function. And I think social media, for all its faults, has been excellent in kind of promoting this modality of therapy, just because I think in 2016, when I started it, there was not this wealth of information on it, and it wasn't so accessible. And now there are a number, there's dentists, there's ENTs, there's myofunctional therapists, all talking about how this can help and ways. And again, I'm probably not the last person that you need to see in your journey, but I will get you to the right people. I know enough things that, like, yes, I'm great at myofunctional therapy, but I also know pieces from other areas, and I will make sure we get that client in front of the right person.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I would love to see, if you're open to it, if there's something that you can do like real time now to evaluate or test something in me to just see maybe a function or something. Is that possible to do, like over Zoom, to just do a test and we can like assess? I know that my palate is like super, super narrow. Like I have scallop tongue, like I have the tiniest little narrow palate. And that's something that I'm going to pursue in the next year or two, like doing a palate expander and all of that. But I'm just curious if there's something that you could just assess like real time, or even just looking at someone, what's something that you notice?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like I have to, it's habit for now. Like I look at people and I assess them all the time, because once you see things, you can't unsee them.
Same.
Yes. So yeah, like looking, I can tell you've got a great smile, but I also notice that there's space on the sides, and those are called your buccal corridors. Mm-hmm. And that indicates that you probably have a narrow palate.
Yeah.
If you have a narrow palate, there's a good chance that your tongue hasn't been resting up where it's supposed to be. So the tongue is the body's natural palate expander, and the lips are the braces. Looking at someone's smile, while I'm not a dentist, I can look at, are the teeth angled a certain way? How are they lining up? Are they misaligned? When you're talking or sitting there, are there compensations that are happening? I hate the dead giveaway with, and I hate to just bring it back to just like women specific. A lot of the women, they'll talk with their neck and they'll do this, and that's a giveaway that those are compensations.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to use all of these things, all of these muscles to just sit here and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Looking at how people swallow. So I try not to, especially like if I'm out in public and with friends or something, I'm trying not to watch my friends eat because I'll look at how they swallow, how they're chewing. There's a lot of signs that I see that could say, oh, you'd benefit from myofunctional therapy. And that being said, no one has completely perfect everything. It's just, it doesn't exist. Yeah. So I come through it like, yes, we have an ideal, but I'm looking for making it not just functioning, but functional.
Yeah.
That person. So my optimal looks different than your optimal, which looks different than the next person's optimal.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. And it's funny because like all the things in my work, I always tell people, I'm like, even with 20 years in a certain field, there's never this arrived for me. Like I never just wake up every day and make the perfect nutrition choices without the tendency to overeat carbs, or I never don't have a triggered moment, or I don't always sleep perfectly and optimize my schedule. I try to aim for that always. I'm always striving for that. But there are nuances, and even being several years into my journey and my breath being substantially improved, my resting tongue posture substantially improved, especially when I get like excited and activated, like sometimes with a lot of back-to-back clients, there's a lot to fit in and this energy comes up for me. And then I'll notice back like on an Instagram like story or something, and I'll look at my neck and I'm like, what are you doing? It's better than that. But for me, it's when I get really excited. Another example is I love going on walks with friends. I would rather go to the park or the trail and catch up with somebody. But dude, get me on a trail and get me walking and my breathing goes to shit really fast. And I always feel absolutely terrible after. And so literally this year, I've stopped meeting with friends to go walk because I walk too fast and I talk too fast and I get excited and I don't breathe the entire time. And then I feel completely crappy. I like crash, my oxygen and CO2 are totally off. And so I've just had to recognize that when I get excited or I get a little bit of anxiety in certain situations or excitement, I switch, which is very common. You switch back to that default. You're not present. You're not conscious. If I had 30 plus years of breathing a certain way and talking a certain way, it's very easy to go back to that neural pathway and to do that. And so that's another thing that, again, I try to teach people that there's never this perfect arrived. It's always a work in progress, but being aware of things, cultivating that, again, that dialogue and that language and paying attention to your signs and symptoms. Hopefully things don't go completely off the rails. You catch them as you're drifting off the road. And that's a delicate balance for our mental health, our physical health, our nutrition, our sleep. There's a lot of moving parts. But when you have that regulation at a core level, you can handle all of those moving parts a lot better. And I think that's the goal. That's the goal for me, for sure. And for anyone that's watching now, I do have one more question because of the space in the side. So if I do that, this one barely has any, like in a lot of angles, you actually can't see any shadow or space on the left side for me. But this side, my jaw, like here's my teeth, and this one like completely crashes in just on this side. Like it literally looks like somebody just punched 3 of my teeth over. And that's where that big space is. And I've always wondered, I'm a craniosacral therapist, so I sometimes work with babies and a lot of the skull development and things like that's my world.
Yeah.
And I've always just wondered, I also get migraines on the right side of my head. And a lot of the stuff that I have is right side dominant. So I'm always trying to connect the dots and figure out like, was there something in my skull development that caused that? Was it the way that I laid as a kid? Like, I'm just always wondering what that's about and wanting to figure it out. And if it has anything to do with the different structures of my skull and my migraines that I've had my whole life. So is that something that you typically see imbalances, or is it typically symmetrical on both sides if the jaw and the palate hasn't expanded?
So I feel like everyone, I know it's common that like people say like every face has a certain level of it, but a lot of it's like resting posture, like how your tongue shaped your upper arch, because your upper arch, it's again, the stability that comes from your jaws is incredible. But if your tongue's not resting up in the correct posture, you're not going to get that nice U-shaped palate.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to necessarily have the dental stability, and that you get compensations when muscular dysfunction. So there's a number of things that can cause asymmetries in how our face is shaped. But it's interesting, and I don't always get to the bottom of it, to be honest. There's only so much I can do. I don't have an x-ray machine in here, and I have a certain level of knowledge that like I pass it on to the next provider and say, okay, what's happening here? But like going back to really where the tongue is from birth is going to shape that face. Like you see it, especially in babies, when you've got those tongue-tied babies that come out and their jaws recessed. And then if you do a tongue tie release, a lot of times that jaw's able to move forward and you're able to get that downward and forward facial growth that you want.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen the different pictures on mewing on the internet. I think James even shared some of those at the event. Like I actually stumbled across mewing a long time ago, literally because of I was so self-conscious because my nose has also been broken, which certainly hasn't done me favors in the breathing department. I feel like my nostril on the right side is like a coffee straw. Like when I got one of the sinus expanders, the turbinators, whatever they're called.
Turbinates, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, is this what it actually feels like to get air through your nose? So again, I never knew this was just my normal. And when I had that expansion, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But I was always self-conscious about that. And so I literally remember years and years ago, I was like, is there ways, like, I know I can work out the rest of my body and change the shape and size and stuff. Found some things about mewing, never really stuck with it. I had not that much of an incentive to. But from me, I swear it's like totally psychological. But even the way I feel if I'm stressed or congested and I'm not breathing right, I just feel frumpy and blah. I just do not feel the same. But when I'm like feeling really good and energized and confident and my posture's up and my tongue's up, my face feels snatched. Like it's just a whole different energy. And I don't think that's a coincidence either, because our psychology and our mind and the way we present and show ourselves in the world is so much somatic. It's so much the way we're structured and stabilized and everything. And so for me, I've always loved strength training and how that translates with women, because when you start developing that strength and your motor units and everything are working and you're strengthening them, guess what? You're suddenly more confident and you feel more powerful in the workspace. And that it just translates into so many other areas of your life. And I don't think that my face has changed necessarily. Like sometimes I'll see pictures and I'm like, again, a couple years into this journey of just working on my tongue posture and my breathing. But I think it's more just energetic. I think when my tongue's up, my posture's better. I feel better. I have more energy, and that translates very much. So I don't know, again, if like you see that when you're working with people, if you see that change. But for me, I just feel like two different people, like a mouth breather version of myself, and then like the tongue is in the right, like they're two totally different people.
100%. And it's a confidence thing, 100%. And there is actual like physiological things that are going on. But I like to give the example of, do you want to look like Napoleon Dynamite? Or have your mouth closed? And there's postural changes. Having your tongue up in the right spot, it helps bring your body into alignment. If you are mouth breathing and you're like, you feel slouchier. I take posture. I have a posture chart on my wall. I take pictures before and after of clients, and there may be some body work that has to be done in there, but you can tell the difference just looking at their jaw. If you want to look better in pictures, number one thing you can do, put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. It'll reduce that double chin look.
Oh, 100%. And I'm sure you've seen the viral videos of people like the side profile and they're like, and suddenly they have that snatched jawline. Again, I see that in myself if I've been stressed or I'm not breathing. And I swear I have 5 different versions of my face. Mm-hmm. And the one that's optimal is the healthiest version of me. So I don't think that's a coincidence. And even the way people just respond to your energy, I swear they've got like these internal sensors of like her CO2 and oxygen balance is good. And they just like, they're attracted to you in a different way. There's something I think really subconscious beneath the surface of when you feel good and your posture's good. It's so rare nowadays that you really stand out. People are like, there's something different about that person. I don't know what it is. And for me, when I notice someone that just has good energy or something, again, I pay attention. I'm like, look at their posture. They're not mouth breathing. And again, I'm always analyzing people too, to my own detriment. I'm constantly like, oh, they're in dorsal vagal right now. Their nervous system, like their neurotransmitters are doing this. Their hormones are doing this. Like sometimes I feel like I'm not even a human being. I feel like I'm just like this analyzer where I love to analyze and
hard to shut off.
Yeah. And you're like, can I just be a human and just enjoy my friends right now?
Yeah. It's funny because like we'll be even like out in public, but even watching TV and my husband will be like, you're staring at their mouth. I'm like, yeah. And you do have to shut it off because you can, like I said earlier, you can find something with every single person.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they need myofunctional therapy. It just, we're humans and we live life and we all have different experiences and definitely manifests outwardly. But I think there are always places that we can improve as far as working to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. So the key takeaways, just as a summary, is like, number one, breathing and the way you breathe and where your tongue is really important. It's like base foundation for your mental and physical health. That's one thing that I try to tell people with their nervous system and their brain. But again, your nervous system is going to regulate your breath and your breath is going to regulate your nervous system. Like it's a two-way street, right? Mm-hmm. Number two, you really have to be your own advocate if you are struggling with dysfunction, whether it's anxiety or gut issues or mental health, like whatever it is. I know it's so frustrating and it's time and energy and cost intensive, but being willing to keep pursuing practitioners that are going to listen to you and that are competent and open-minded and know how to refer. I do feel like we're the minority as practitioners that do that, but there are practitioners out there. That's why I want to amplify the voices of anyone that I know in this space. And the more we work together, the better we can serve people. So if you're struggling and you're not getting answers, keep advocating for yourself. And it's the norm to get dismissed as a woman. And it's definitely normal for your body to feel completely overwhelmed and taxed all the time when we try to go through life like we're going through. And then number 3, being aware of your physical state and learning that is great. It doesn't have to become this obsessive, hypervigilant, oh my gosh, I have to control and manage every single thing, but just learning. And again, learning tools and the right therapies and stuff that are going to work for you and really benefit you is really important. And then just having fun with the process and understanding mental and physical health. It's all connected. Like when you change one thing, other things tend to change with it. And that's a good thing. Again, you don't just work on your breath in isolation. It will actually change your confidence and your posture and the way you look and feel about yourself. I believe that with so many therapies, because again, I believe when the body's in alignment, our mental and physical health are one and the same. I say that all the time. They're not these two separate entities that don't talk to each other, like they're connected. And so when you start working on these little things, you get this compounded effect of, wow, I'm standing better, I'm more confident, and it just keeps building. So that's the good news there. Are there any closing thoughts or takeaways that you would just want to add that you really want listeners to hear and take away from this?
Yeah, I think you hit on all the points that we talked about. I want more people to know about Myo and know that how it can help. That's been my biggest platform, is just trying to make sure that people know that there are better ways we can function. And just because, like I said before, even if you're functioning, it doesn't mean that you're functional. So there's a difference between those. You want to make sure that you're putting yourself into a place where your body is more relaxed. And I think that's hard. It's hard in this culture. It's hard in this day and age. And you don't necessarily think that all these things are interconnected, but they are. And making sure that your body's where it's supposed to be, a baseline. Again, that is so important. So I would say, yeah, like I said, you hit on all the points. And yeah, be an advocate for yourself. If you feel something's not right with your body or mental state, you have to keep fighting until you find somebody who is going to put those pieces together.
100%. And I feel like it's like meme worthy quote, just because you're functioning doesn't mean you're functional. Again, people are so used to that. I wake up and I caffeinate myself into oblivion and I make it to work and I come home, but I'm miserable every second of the day. And I physically, emotionally, psychologically feel terrible. That's not living, and you don't have to continue to suffer that way. I think the final thing that I would add to the advocacy for yourself is, again, we think that when we go to these doctors, there's this lab coat, white coat syndrome, and we give them all the power. And if they tell us nothing's wrong, or they tell us they can't help us, we're like, the doctor said. It's like this kind of complex of authority. There's so much that is missing in medicine. There's so many missing links, as Kaitlyn and I have shared. Like, we continued in our practices to look at these other things, and we were like blown away that they weren't a part of our core curriculum for what we did. If I'm working with people's body and fascia and tissue and exercise and mental health, I should know about airway health. I should know, again, the simple basics of what to look for and how to refer out. Same with speech pathology. Like, when I saw the speech pathologist for my vocal cord stuff, eventually, because it took me years to get down this journey, I told her, I was like, yeah, like I literally thought she would be the person that would understand the mouth breathing thing. And I was like, I've learned a lot the last couple of years about mouth breathing. So I've been working a lot on that and changing. She said, literally, she's, oh, that wouldn't have anything to do with, I'm like, I had such a hard time staying on the call. I'm like, this is literally your zone of genius. How do you not understand how mouth breathing? Like, again, how am I completely over here in a totally different universe and field, but I know more about this than you? And that's unfortunate, but that is the nature of reality. It's just because someone is an expert doesn't mean that they know everything, that they have all the pieces, because the pieces are endless. So looking for practitioners that you see talk about other things and are willing to refer out and have different people with conflicting views on their podcast or whatever, those are just things to look for in practitioners. Is, do they seem to have some generalized competency of a lot of different systems? Not an expert, but just to be open enough to say, this is my zone of genius, but there's more. That is the thing that I would really want people to take away if they're struggling, is looking for practitioners that are open-minded like that, because that is how we change the game. That is how we pioneer treatment for people. And that is how we get people out of disease and dysfunction that millions upon millions of people are in. So that's my closing soapbox. For a final closing note, where can people find you? How can they work with you? Do you work with people like around the United States? Are you able to do that? Or did they need to be in Florida?
So it depends. There are some, it's all by licensure. So it depends on the state that they're in. I am licensed in New Hampshire and Florida. And I can work virtually with people in those states. And then there is some reciprocity that's happening now where our licenses are allow us to treat in other states, but that's in the process of happening. To find me, Instagram, I try to provide a lot of just informational tidbits that help you understand myo and your own body. It's just Southern Speech and Myo on Instagram. You'll see I have my logo's big lips. And then also on my website, southernspeechandmyo.com. But yeah, feel free. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to chat and try to help you on your journey. So feel free to reach out on any of those platforms.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to put the links to all of that in the show notes so that people can just find her. And thank you so much for your time and your knowledge, and for being, again, a part of, in my view, the collective change of open-mindedness and holistic practitioners that are really changing the game. I really appreciate your time and your knowledge, and it's been great chatting. And yeah, I definitely go follow her and learn. Again, if you're not able to work with someone in person, practitioners like this are so powerful to support in the online space, because they're taking their time and putting out the knowledge and the resources for people to learn the missing links. So then they can go and find someone like that in their own local region or area. So it's really important to me to support practitioners like that. And I encourage you guys to do the same. And yeah, just thank you so much for everything that you've shared.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always great learning from you. I feel like going on your page and chatting with you, I learn a lot. So I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's all for now, guys. Make sure to pop over into the links and follow her, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Brain Body Speak. If you found today's episode valuable, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and please consider leaving a review so that more people can find the show and benefit from this content. It means the world to me. I read every single one of them, and it really encourages me to keep moving forward with this mission and this podcast. Also, tag me on Instagram at Brain Body Speak and let me know what resonated with you specifically about this episode, and you'll be entered into my monthly giveaway of a free $500 value Brain Body Reboot course. To take this journey further, visit brainbodyspeak.com for free resources and to see our complete suite of self-paced programs. If you're ready to start nourishing your brain and body today, snag something from my premium supplement line by visiting zeninabottle.biz. Remember, 300 Zens, our magnesium product, is my absolute fave and my #1 recommendation for people to get started. Until next time, remember, your transformation begins with your brain, your body, and your nervous system. And I hope you found value from this show that you can put into action today. Love and Zen. Until next time.